Good afternoon to all. Respected Vice Chancellor, Dr. Father Abraham, Pro Vice Chancellor, Dr. Father Jose, Registrar, Dr. Anil Pinto, Controller of Examinations, Dr. Joni Joseph, distinguished deans, heads of departments, and faculty members. Greetings from the Praveen Kenneth Chair on Leadership. Trust that you all are safe and well. Today, we will have the 23rd edition of the monthly leadership conversation session. As already communicated to you, Dr. Muthu Ruben, Associate Professor, School of Law, will share his thoughts on the topic, Leadership is a Philosophy. A leadership philosophy contains value-based ideas of how a leader should be and how a leader should act. Leadership philosophies help us to understand how a leader comes to power and stays in power. Dr. Ruben's talk will evolve around the examples of good leadership qualities which he had come across in his academic journey at Christ University. He will also share his experience on how a leader needs to take care of his subordinates. Let me take 2 minutes to introduce Dr. Ruben. Dr. Ruben is serving in Christ since 21 years. Prior to that, he had 3 years of corporate experience. He holds 4 degrees, MCom, MBA, MPhil, and a PhD. He has the additional responsibility of coordinating the holistic education development program in our university. His teaching motto is, education without discipline is a sin. He was an eminent panelist in the admission board of prestigious St. John's Medical College in the year 2004. He is a specialized trainer for college teachers on topics like mindset of a teacher, classroom management, effective teaching strategies, etc. He has conducted more than 40 plus programs at 10 different institutions in person and has given 28 online guest talks during the pandemic time. Dr. Ruben has visited 6 universities at Hong Kong in 2016 to know the best practices in education. He has served as a visiting faculty at St. George's Medical College during the year 2005 to 2010 for the program PG Diploma in Hospital Management. He is known for academic deliveries in big corporates like Infosys, Cognizant, Wipro, Intel, HP, LG, and IBM. I feel happy to moderate this session because Dr. Ruben is a good friend of me, and more than a friend, he is sort of a mentor to me. We always discuss a lot of academic issues and related matters, and many times I take advice from him. On behalf of all attending this program, Dr. Ruben, most welcome to you to this session. The program will follow this schedule. You can start now and we will have, you can take about 30 to 35 minutes to share your views. After that, we will have a question and answer session, and we will end with final comments by Father VC and Registrar. Over to you, Dr. Ruben.
Thank you, Paul sir, for that nice introduction. I thank the Praveen Kenneth Chair for Leadership for having invited me to share my views on leadership. I thank Father Vice Chancellor, Pro Vice Chancellor, Registrar sir for having come to this session to hear from me, and all the deans, HODs, and the coordinators, a humble salutation to you. Let me begin this session by wishing you a happy afternoon. Please, can you give me an emoji sign and wish me back happy afternoon? You can give me an emoji thumbs up sign, or you can write on the chat box happy afternoon. Quickly, you can give me an emoji sign or a thumbs up sign and wish me happy afternoon. Yes, thank you, Uma ma'am. Right. I was indeed thrilled when our Vice Chancellor, when he took over office, mentioned about the happiness quotient. And my greeting for the students have always been happy morning, happy afternoon, and happy evening. I believe that the happiness needs to be demonstrated in all possible manners, and let the greeting also be happy morning, happy afternoon, happy evening. Now, having said that, I'm going to start from a quote which was mentioned by Indra Noori, the previous CEO of PepsiCo. She was invited to be given an award by NDTV way back in 2014, and she was given 3 minutes to talk. Now, what did she talk within the 3 minutes? The first thing she spoke was that we need to be a lifelong student, right? We need to have that curiosity in us, and we need to be a lifelong student. The second important thing which she spoke was that whatever we need to do, we need to put our passion into it, our heart, soul, and mind into it. And the third important thing is connected to leadership. She said, greatness doesn't come from a position, but when you allow others to rise to your position, when you help your subordinates to come to your position, that is where your greatness comes from, she mentioned. Now, having mentioned about Indra Noori's talk, I'm going to press the pedal and go into certain people who came across my life. And what did I learn from them? I believe that we don't become leaders overnight. It is either our experiences which we have, either the circumstances which we have, or the issues which we faced and the decisions which we took. All that has evolved us to be good leaders. And I also quote that a good teacher is always a good leader. So if you're failed on your path to be a good teacher, you can never be a good leader. Now, the year dates back to 1964. And this is an incident which took place in a place at Coimbatore. The company name is Staines Tires. The manager walks in on that particular day to his office. Everybody is awestruck. Why is he here in his office on his important day in his life? The general manager is also stuck. The general manager is also wondering, why is the manager over here at his important day in his life? Now everybody is tensed up. The manager goes about doing his work. And in the afternoon at 12:30, he takes a piece of paper, writes a leave letter, and goes to the general manager and requests the general manager to give him a half-day leave. So the general manager is surprised and says, we were all waiting for the suspense to break. Why did you come to office? Today is your most important day in your life. And the manager says, yes, today is the most important day in my life, but my duty comes first. Please give me half a day leave so that I can go for my wedding, which is at 4:30 in the evening. Now, the manager happens to be my own beloved dad, late Mr. D. Vincent. Right? The first thing which he taught me in a leadership is that duty comes first. No matter what it is, work is worship. He imbibed that very, very strongly in me, and this was repeatedly told by him to me and by my relatives, sarcastically saying that, do you know what your dad did on the wedding day? He went to his office and then took a leave and came for the wedding. But the beauty over there is he believed in work as worship. And I would like to quote that even when my mother passed away, on the third day, he called me and said, pack up and get back to Bangalore. You have students waiting for me. Your duty calls you. And so I had to abide by that particular rule. He also advised me on a Sunday, if you have a church calling and if you have your neighbor to whom you have to help, please go to help your neighbor. You score more brownie points when you serve others. So that has strongly built into my character, duty first. And when he passed away in 2015, he passed away on a Friday. Saturday was his funeral. Sunday was the third day ceremony. And I knew that my father's soul will not rest in peace. I report back to work on a Monday. Everybody was stuck. I said, yes, it is my father's vision. that I need to come back to work. It is his dream. It is his goal. It is his concept that work is worship. So the first and foremost quality of a leader is that you prioritize your work first. I do understand that even I'm a family man committed with my family and everything, but then we can prioritize and we can take up things in such a manner that our duty comes first. That's the first calling which we have. Now, the second important personality whom I'm going to discuss with you is a teacher. Now, this teacher is a favorite teacher of mine, but then I've been an outstanding student of her class. When I say outstanding student, she has always made me stand outside the class. Now, even in the classroom, sometimes when all my classmates were seated on the desk, she made me sit on the floor. Sometimes the principal used to come on his rounds and then ask me, son, why are you standing outside? And I will say, ma'am had sent me out, brother. I do not know what is the reason. And then he would request this ma'am to keep me inside, get me inside the classroom. You must be wondering, what is this all about? Yes, of course. One day I got agitated and I asked her, why are you doing this to me? What have I done to deserve such a treatment that I cannot be in your class? And she answered back to me saying that nobody should say that there was a mother-son relationship in the classroom, but rather a teacher and a student relationship in the classroom. Yes, my dear audience, it is my beloved mother, late Mrs. Victoria Vincent, who just did her MA, MEd, MPhil, PhD after I was born. We are three in the family, I'm the youngest. She went on to do a PhD and then she was called to serve in the university, called to serve in the college, because those days a PhD in language invited a lot of laurels. But she refused to go to greater heights. She said, no, I'm a teacher in the school. And the beauty is she connected her service with everybody whom she met, right? She did a lot of networking to help people out there, even being a small teacher. Now, position doesn't matter. What value you add to the work which you do matters a lot. You can be a very, very insignificant person in the organization, but still you can make a significant contribution in value creation. I still remember that many of our students still connect with me even after so many decades, saying that your mother was a good teacher. And I believe a leader should not go behind positions. Even if without a position, you can still be significant enough. I would proudly say that maybe you can take this book written by Robin Sharma, The Leader Who Had No Title. You'll understand the concept which I'm driving into you. The third thing is about an incident which happened in my life. The year dates to 1994, when I was a student at St. Joseph's College, Tiruchirappalli. This college has just celebrated 175 years of its existence. I joined BCom in 1993, and in 1994, during the college day celebrations, I was supposed to get a prize from the chief guest for having topped a particular subject. Those days, we did not have the film rolls. The digital camera, we had only the film rolls. So you need to take a token from the photographer before you went to the stage, so that the photographer knows that when you flashes the token, you're supposed to take a photograph. Now, one look at the personality. I said, no, I'm not going to take a photograph with this personality. Why? Because he had flowing hair right to his eyes. His ears were covered with hair. Not that neatly groomed up, I would say, his hair. But then he was a prominent personality. He happened to be the alumni of the college. And he had come in all goodness to take part in the college day celebrations. And I did not have a photograph with this eminent personality. Little did I know that in 2002, that this personality will become the first citizen of the country, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I judged a book by its cover. I felt very bad on that day when I heard that he had become the president. If only I had taken a photograph with him, maybe I would be flashing it to you, saying that I have a photograph with Dr. APJ. But then it became a history so that I can share it to you, and also share that it was on that day I realized the real meaning of never judge a book by its cover. In the same manner, my dear leaders over here, never judge your colleagues. You never know to what heights they can scale. It can be even your students. It's just a matter of decade between the time I met him as a chief guest to the time he became the president. And it could be the same decade in which your colleagues also can overtake you, and you should pave the path for them to overtake you and go. A good leader will always identify the right resources and put it across. So that's the third lesson which I learned as a leader. Never be judgmental with your subordinates. Never, right? Okay. Judge your subordinate. You'd never know to what heights they can reach. Now, the fourth interesting personality whom I have come across is when I joined Kristu Jayanti College in the year 2002. Everything was fine for the first 2 months. And suddenly I got a call from my friend who happens to own two industries in Tirupur. He called up and said, Ruben, everything is going to happen on the internet very soon. And you are very good at English and I don't have that knowledge. Can you come down to Tirupur to help me? I will give you twice the salary which you are earning as a college lecturer. So at that time, I was hardly earning 7,000 rupees, and he threw the bait to me saying that I'll pay you 15,000 rupees. Can you come and join my company? Right? And I'll make you a partner in my company. I immediately told him, no, I cannot say yes or no to you. Give me some time. Let me think. And the next day I happened to come to college. And that day, all of a sudden, the peon came to me and said, Principal, father wants to meet you. So I rushed into Father Joskuti's cabin. He made me sit and looked into my eyes and said, are you ready to take up a new responsibility? I was dumbstruck. Did he overhear my conversation with my friend Kandasamy? I said, Father, and I dragged Father. He said, yes. Are you ready to take up a new responsibility? And I said, I'm not sure, Father. Please tell me what it is. He said, well, you would be the placement coordinator for Kristu Jayanti College. For a second, I took a relief and said, okay, fine. He has not overheard my conversation. I said, yes, Father, I will take him. Then condition supply came. The condition supply is more important. You will not have any relaxation in your number of hours which you teach. We will try to prepone all the hours in the morning so that in the afternoon, you would go to companies, meet the HR or meet whoever it is, and then, right, okay, you would not be given an extra pay for it. I said, yes, Father, don't worry. I do not want an extra pay, but you can just reimburse my petrol expenses wherever I go. I'll give you the log. And he said, okay, fine. So I took up that responsibility. And I was trying to coordinate that work at Kristu Jayanti College. And within 2 to 3 months, once again, a call came from Father saying that I'm going to give you another responsibility and only you can take it up. I said, what is it, Father? No, we are planning to start an NCC unit over here. I said, fine. Only you have an NCC certificate. So you will have to be a caretaker until you go for your training and come back to be an NCC officer. Fine, Father. Once again, conditions apply. No relaxation in the number of hours. No extra pay. You'll have to do it along with your regular work. I said, okay, fine, Father. So he started giving me one or the responsibility. And I did not feel much of a pressure because at that time I was not married, not a family man. I was able to spend more time with my college over there. And I was not waiting for any reward. But then in 2004, Father Joskuti got a call from St. John's Medical College asking him to come to the panel to be a member for the admission board. And he called me and said, I'm going to send you on my behalf. He sent me on his behalf, and that is why I proudly write in my resume that I have been in the board over there. Now, a good leader would always identify resources, will not be quick to reward, but will be patient in observing things and then later give the reward. The reason why I tell you is that we are dealing with a set of youngsters who are coming into the profession who are looking at instant gratification. No wonder the Instagram is doing really well, because the moment you post something, everybody would like to see it and get a gratification out of it. What are the posters? Likes about it. And so as leaders, please understand, maybe you will have to tell your subordinates this. You can put in your work. The reward will come, but you need to have patience over there. Thanks to the Almighty, I was patient enough to get my rewards over there. And so my service over there had been even remarkable, because even now I'm in touch with the fathers over there, with Father Joskuti and the vice principal, then vice principal, Father Isaac Puchangulam. I still remember the first day when I went to college, and then in the staff room, there was not a chair for me to be seated. And Father Isaac Puchangalam went out, carried a chair. It was a cushion chair, heavy enough. He carried it himself and made me comfortable. You may sit over here, sir. And this is your chair, and made me proud to sit over there. A good leader should also be humble enough to help his subordinates to grow. That's the point which I would like to drive over there. Another interesting personality whom I came across in the leadership style is the HOD at Kristu Jayanti College of Commerce, okay, Mr. R. Vijay Kumar. Usually, in all departments, there would be a big gamble twice in a year when the semester is going to begin regarding the allocation of papers. This HOD had a unique character, Mr. Vijay Kumar. So he said, you can take whatever paper you want. So we were around 15 of us in the department. You can take whatever paper. Leave the difficult papers to me. Because as a HOD, I am supposed to take the difficult papers. He had an administrative work over there. He was supposed to coordinate so many activities. He was in charge of NSS. He was in charge of various activities. But still, he took up the responsibility of handling the most difficult papers which were. So a good leader will never pressurize his team members to do the difficult things, but rather he would take the pressure on himself and allow the members to get their efficiency out and later slowly give them the work which is needed over there. Because I worked in 3 different institutions, and so I come across HOD would say that I want this paper. Let me have this paper first. The HOD's allocation goes first. It's like the lion's share which goes first and the remaining share is for the lionesses. But rather it was the other way around. So I learned from him that if you want your team to work efficiently, maybe the leader will have to take the pressure. And I believe working with the Reverend Fathers at Christ University, I have seen, okay, they have enough and more pressure, but I've never seen them exhibit that pressure on somebody else. We look at the so-called efficiency of a worker. And so please, my sincere request to all the leaders over there is don't pressurize, but rather with love, care, and concern, maybe you can get your team to scale to greater heights. I'm in charge of a very small, significant team, which is the HED team. We have somewhere around 9 core members over there. And all the decisions which we take over there is all collaboratively consulted and taken. And then we come to a consensus, okay, fine, we shall roll out this model. And I'm proud to say that with a great team, you can create scale heights, because with the online platform over there and the new HED form of the deanery level and the institution level, we are able to quickly change it because I have a great team which is able to. And even if my team member says that they cannot do it, I'll say, okay, no issues, I will do it. And so even the faculty allocation, I sit and do it on my own. Even if there's a mistake, I would say that let me own that particular mistake of wrongly allocating the faculty, maybe semester wise or the skill wise. So maybe you leaders also could take this into consideration, that build a strong team and set examples so that you would be quoted elsewhere as a role model over there. I had also worked with the ITC group of hotels in the hospitality industry, and that is why I was able to connect with the BHM department, teaching them for over 3 to 4 years. I had come across one Mr. Ram Mishra from Delhi. He was something amazing personality whom I have to give salutations. But of course, I learned 2 things from him. Number 1, he would look at the minutest of the details about customer relations. Everything from maybe from a pin to an aeroplane, we say, which we get in Walmart, like that, minute details. He taught me to look at minute details over there. I was just purchase in charge, and he told me, no, you'll not be purchase in charge. You'll be direct under my control. I want you to work under me in all the areas. So I had to go to the restaurant. I had to go to the production, that is the kitchen, maybe to the guest relations, F&B manager, maintenance, housekeeping, everywhere I'm supposed to coordinate to ensure that everything happens properly when guests come over there. And he taught me one thing. He told me, Ruben, when people get into the hotel, they will remember the hotel only for 2 things. Number 1, for the good of the things. Number 2, for the bad of the things. I want the hotel and everybody in the staff to be known for the good of the things. That was something which struck me. Like, let people remember you for the good of the reasons. But of course, during meetings, he used to run down people, which I did not like. Because some people take meetings to run down people, which is not, because all you have is a hammer in a hand and everything becomes a nail for you. So you got hammering everything over there. But then I would say that it should be something wherein you would like to, okay, what do you call, work in a collaborative manner with all the departments. Because sometimes I also feel the pressure that I'm required at the examinations department, I'm required at this department, I'm required at that department. Now, where do I go? So there is no a consensus coming over there within the departments. Where should the faculty go for the particular work? Because all of a sudden, from everywhere, the call comes. Maybe I learned from him how you can prioritize your work, how you can put people over there at respective places, and talk about how people can remember you for the good of the reasons also. That's very, very important for you. Because at the end, it can be your colleague who can leave your organization and go. Let him leave and go. It's his choice. We cannot help it over there. But let us not be responsible for the person to leave and go. That's the beauty over there. Let us not be responsible for the person to leave and go over there. If he leaves on his own, fine, because maybe he looks at a different perspective. Okay, because many a times I've come across individuals whom I have told them not to leave. I'm happy to tell you that most of them have heard my advice and have stayed with the organization. And that's fantastic to say that a leader holds people together no matter what it is. Another important fine line in a leadership is to divide the personal work and a professional work over there, right? Having said that, I also had my wife who had worked at Rice University. We worked together for close to 6.5 years, but never was a relationship as a husband and wife mentioned over there. Nobody would have noticed it because it is from the car parking. She used to go to her department. I used to come to my department, and we used to meet again in the evening after sign out at the car parking over there. So we are all in responsible positions. Please have that lining of cutoff between a personal and a professional one. I remember the days in which I was with the BBM department under Mr. Jane Matthews' care, and he used to take every one of us for tea together. So there was also a heterogeneous group over there, and he ensured that he always pays for the tea over there. And we used to have a talk for 5 to 10 minutes. And the moment we step into the department, it was a professional manner. We could see his face change over there, right? It would be very professional over there. You should have that professional face as well as the personal face, but please understand that don't get the personal into the professional link. You would be jeopardizing others' life, right? You would be jeopardizing because you might think, okay, because you are very close to this person could be given a responsibility that would be wrong enough for you. Because from a professional perspective, you have to identify whether the person could be responsible enough or not. Now, having said that, I would like to talk upon trust. I had worked in Calcutta and Pune before I went to do my MBA. My first job was at Calcutta. I remember going there to a branch office, which was known as Ashwini Fisheries Limited. And as soon as I went into the office, it was a 5 crore turnover company. That is way back into 1996, I'm talking about. And the manager over there, Mr. Muttarasan, he got up and said, okay, fine, you are the new person appointed from the head office, Ruben, right? Okay, fine. And immediately he gave me the keys. And he also baptized me with a new name saying that now onwards, you'll be known as Chota Cashier. Now, he is known as the Bada Cashier, I'm known as Chota Cashier. And the very first day he gave me the keys, and I did not expect that the locker contained close to around 30 lakh rupees. Now, that night I could not sleep because I was having the keys with me, holding it, keeping it under the pillow every 5 minutes, seeing whether the keys, because he said, if anything is going to go wrong with the money over there, you'll be responsible. Now, I had to put in 24 hours of work over there because there was no holiday over there. Literally, there was no holiday. You can get an off between the month of November to February when it's off season, but you have to work from February till November continuously without any holidays. Of course, if it's an emergency, you can go back home. So I had put in my work. I hardly joined in the month of September, and by October, he gave a news. Now, that news did not fascinate me at all, but it fascinated the other people in the office. He said, well, I'm going to go home for Diwali. And the others were dumbstruck. I didn't understand what was it about. And then when the others told me, when I inquired, he said, the manager has never gone home for Diwali for the past 5 years. And this year he is going to go home to Diwali because you are there. And within 2 months, I was able to win his trust. And he gave me the responsibility of handling the cash at the branch office over there so that he can go for Diwali holidays and then come back. Right? The good leader will always trust his subordinates, and the subordinates will also have to live up to that particular expectation. Now, we cannot revolve around the word. We have to revolve around the word trust. It cannot be lost because education institutions are run on trust. And we have the Dharmaram Trust, which is running Christ University over there. Now, these are the interesting personalities whom I came across. And of course, I'm not mentioned many names from Christ University because most of you are role models over there. Are role models over there. My sincere request is two things. Number one, build a succession for your chair. It is your duty as a part of a leader to build succession to your chair. It can be anybody. Start grooming leaders. And so the succession should not be difficult. It should be an easy cakewalk that somebody is able to be molded and come to the chair. And the second important thing is no matter what it is, follow a principle. Don't give a justification for your principle. Now, you may be a Gandhian. If you're a Gandhian, you should follow the true principles of Gandhi. Okay, I may be a Christian, but then I have to follow the true principles of forgiveness. Now, we cannot give a justification as to why I outbreak the principle over there. So if you're following a principle, please follow that principle in heart, soul, and mind. Don't give a justification for breaking that principle and say, no, that person has to be dealt by that, and so I have to deal with by that. No, it is your choice that you have decided to break that principle and give a justification. So only two things I would say: that please build succession, please build leaders, because time is very short. We know that after the pandemic that many of our colleagues are not there with us. We lost them, and we never know what is going to happen in the near future. So within the short span of time, let us build others. Just like Indra Nooyi says, greatness doesn't come from a position, but when you allow others to rise to a position, help others rise to a position. And secondly, most important thing is, if you're following a principle, follow that principle in heart, soul, and mind, and don't you ever break that principle. So these are my few what you call sharing observations on leadership. I would now open the floor to questions and to the moderator over there. Thank you so much. I have taken exactly 30 minutes time.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben. The floor is open. You may either unmute and ask questions directly to Dr. Ruben, or you can use the chat box and ask questions.
Dr. Ruben.
Yeah.
Yes.
Xavier here.
Yes, sir.
I am extremely impressed by your talk about the two key inspirations you got, one from your father and one from your mother. It's a clear evidence that true leaders are created. They are created by birth. That true leadership of learning from everybody and every instance comes from the birth. Congratulations, Dr. Ruben.
Thank you, sir.
It was very impressive.
Thank you so much, sir. I would also like to say that since I'm from a family of academics, I've been going to school ever since I was formed in my mother's womb. So academics is my blood, and everybody in our family are into academics. My elder brother is a professor. My elder sister has a school of her own in Karaikal, Pondicherry. The school is 20 years old, by name Good Shepherd English School. And I'm also into academics. My wife is also a principal of a college. So apart from academics, I cannot think anything else apart. So that binds even more to Christ University as an academic fraternity. Thank you so much, sir.
Dr. Ruben, I can ask also no questions.
Definitely, Paul, sir.
See, I thought you would, relate your leadership styles in Christ University, especially in the light of various other responsibilities that you have in the campus. What are the challenges that you face as a coordinator of our holistic development program? What do you want to tell the leaders present here?
Sir, I would say the leadership styles are there in the textbook over there. But when you come to reality, please understand that we only imitate people in leadership styles. I'll give you an example. Most of you are teachers over here, and trust me, when you started your teaching career, you would have imitated your teachers. Am I right, Paul, sir? You would have
Yes.
imitated your teacher to an extent.
Even now.
Even now, that's what. So even now, you're imitating your teacher. In the same manner, our leadership style is also based upon what we observe from others. Now, the challenge for me in HAD as a coordinator was to get people to have the like-mindedness to deliver HAD with their passion. Because when we went to Hong Kong, Registrar Sir and the management was kind enough to take 20 of us to Hong Kong. Now 20 of us to Hong Kong. And when we visited the first university, the professor there said, teach your students how to face failure, because success they know how to manage. Teach your students how to face failure, success they know to manage. So the beauty over here is I am still coping up with the challenge of making people involved in their heart, soul and mind to deliver HED. Right? Okay. People should have that passion to deliver. It is not the subject which matters. It is beyond the classroom where we are going to affect the student's life. Right? It is beyond his life at Christ University. When he goes out to the corporate and when he's going to work over there, that is where we are going to affect his life with what the values we are going to imbibe with him. So I would say that all of us should work not in delivering the subject over there, but delivering something known as a life lessons for them, so that beyond the classroom, they would remember university and still be grateful and connect with the alma mater. So that's the biggest challenge, and it's an ongoing challenge for me because we get new faculty on board. They need to be convinced about the model of HED and how to go about to the delivery to prepare for the model along with their team members. That's the biggest challenge which is facing, and there's no solution for it as such. Only thing is I have to keep orienting these value systems once again to the trainers so that they would be passionate enough to deliver. I think there are some questions on the chat box. There are some questions on the chat
There is a
box.
question by Professor Kannan. You can read, or should I read it out for you?
I'm not able to see the chat, so sorry, sir. Can you read it out for me?
I can read it out for you. Is there any limit to forgive someone? Because I am real life situation, we justify our reasons to forgive or not to forgive someone. What do you say, sir?
Okay, I would say that the biggest loss a person can have is the loss of parents, which already I have. And some of you would have lost your parents. That's the biggest loss you can. There's no loss beyond that. Now, regarding forgiveness, I would say that you're looking at me, right? I only have a loss of 1.5 crores. I was cheated by my own relative for 1.5 crores. Just 1.5 crores. What was supposed to be coming to me was cheated by hook or crook, and I don't have time to file a case and go about. Now, the same relative had approached me asking for funds. So in all magnanimity, that's what I said. When you're following a principle in spirit, you have to follow it pakka. You cannot say that I will do it for this, I'll do it for that. So I had pledged my own house and raised a loan and given to the relative so that he or she would once again come up in life. Now that is forgiveness, I would say. If you want to forgive somebody, forgive them thoroughly. If not, don't forgive. Right? Okay. There's no something as a partial forgiveness or something. Forgiveness is complete. Right? There's no partial forgiveness. Right? There's something known as not a partial. You want to help somebody, help them thoroughly. If not, don't help. Right? Okay. You want to go to the extent of helping somebody. Recently, I had an incident wherein a known person to me happened to lose his wife, and then he was at the police station, and one of the faculty members asked me, sir, why do you want to go and help? And I said that had it been my own brother, will I not help that particular person? So Kannan sir, if you want to forgive, please understand that for your peace of mind, forgive him. I would like to quote, forgive the injustice, lest there be two wrong men. Okay, forgive the injustice, okay, lest there be two bad men. So when you forgive, there's only going to be one bad man over there, and you can become a saint. Okay, there's no some question of partial forgiveness. Forgiveness is complete. You need to do that across.
There is an interesting question from Professor Ashogan. Okay, he says that you are always seen in the campus with a beautiful smile. So even you keep throughout that smile for the entire day. So what is the secret of this keeping the smile from morning till evening? I was about to ask this question, but Shogun sir has already asked.
Okay. Okay, that's nice. Okay. Now let me tell you, I'm going to give you an example. How many of you have seen the Taj Mahal? How many of you have seen the Taj Mahal? Can I get a thumbs up sign? Okay. Can I get a thumbs up sign? Okay. How many of you have seen the picture of the Leaning Tower of Pisa? How many of you have seen the Leaning Tower of Pisa? Fine. Now, how many of you have gone to Forum Mall? How many of you have gone to Forum Mall? How many of you have gone to Kanyakumari? Right? Now, how many of you, okay, right now would recollect your teacher? How many of you would recollect your teacher? Now, what is the picture of your teacher which comes to your mind? Right? The moment I say Taj Mahal, did not Taj Mahal flash in your mind? Did not Leaning Tower of Pisa, or did not okay, whatever Forum Mall flash in your mind over there? So when people remember you, they will immediately remember your face, your personality, right? And they will remember that smiling personality. Please understand that. No matter what the grim situation, I told you, the biggest loss for a person's life is loss of parents. I already had it. And the biggest loss is my own, okay, kid have taken away a property worth 1.5 crores. Chalta hai. I'm happy over it, right? I have no worries at all. Akuma batata, right? Akuma matata. I am happy with what I have. I'm contented. That's it, right? So people will remember me for the smiling face, because I do not want to pressurize anybody. I'm a happy go person. I'm blessed with a wife who can understand me. I'm blessed with the children. Even when I spank them, they come to me in the night and give me a kiss and say, "Thank you, Papa. We love you." That is more than sufficient for me, right? My family is the biggest asset I have. There's nothing beyond family, and I'm contented. And that is the reason behind my smile over there.
Thank you. Ruben, any more questions?
Can I come? This is Biju Toms.
Yeah,
Yes,
you,
sir.
please. Please.
Yeah, Ruben sir, excellent presentation, sir. Very good responses. Sir, my question is, what that has taken Christ University in terms of academic leadership, all of us together, to this stage, till the pandemic time? Do you think that we need to rework, we need to relook, we need to reintrospect to see what are the future qualities that would take us to the next learning curve? In fact, why I'm saying this is recently when Dr. Sam Pitroda was talking to us, he was telling that the role of a teacher is over. You don't teach. You are not even facilitator. You are a mentor. You are going to be mentored, or you are mentoring the students. So in this context, what are the likely leadership challenges for teachers and academic administrators going forward? Over to you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for that question. I might slightly deviate from that question, but I'll answer your question. Now, Vice Chancellor always has put across to us that we have somewhere around 80,000 applications which come to Christ University. I would say that 80,000 applications which come to Christ University is because we have very good able teachers, right? I would say that I would argue with that particular person who said that the role of a teacher is not going to be a teacher role, but a mentor role. No, sorry. We are getting very good applications is because our teachers are very good at delivering in the class. Jokes apart, right? Be it online platform or offline platform, our teachers do a fantastic work of delivering the content in the class. And that is why everybody knows at Christ University, yes, teachers teach the best over there. And that is why there's an application strength over there. Secondly, yes, people can say that, yeah, we can substitute a teacher over there. Now, I will argue saying that you send we had a school which had a robot dressed in a sari and sent to interact with the students. It happened 2 years back in our school at Sajjapura Road. And there was a huge applause for that and everything. Why the robot was programmed to do it and everything. I would say that most of us over here in this forum are more than having teaching experience of more than 15 to 20 years. And when you enter the class after you have taken attendance, you would have felt that one student needs an attention wherein you know that physically the student is present in the class but mentally absent. There is something going wrong in their mind. and you would know, you get that intuition and you call the student and you would mentor the student. This the robot cannot do. This the robot cannot do. We are only having a substitute for the offline platform of the online. It's just a substitute, but we cannot thoroughly depend upon this as a model over here. Maybe for running courses, cutting across countries, time zones and everything, we can have it over here. But the impact of a teacher would affect eternity. Please understand that an impact of a teacher would affect an end. Having said that, what we have to look at is that the world is not coming to an end. We need not hurry up in doing the things again and again in a, what you call immediate manner, right? We can take a pause, take a break and do things in a much more systematic manner, because what I felt was on the offline platform, we are racing, we are just racing towards, okay, fine, target after target, say 1, 2, 3, next semester, what is it? We are racing after the target. I'm sorry to tell you, we can still reach the target, but we can pause also, because I also felt the pressure somewhere in the month of June when so many things overlapped over there. And all of a sudden I said that I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to sit quiet for 2 days, and after that I'll prioritize what I'm going to do. The learning curve over here is that, number one, the physical presence of a teacher cannot be substituted. Come what may, you can have your research studies or whatever it is, that online platform is the best. Online platform is just a substitute in this pandemic time. But a physical presence of a teacher cannot be substituted over there. I'm ready to argue with anybody who comes with whatever research studies. Second thing is, yes, we can achieve our targets in a much better manner, in a little bit pacer manner, if we are able to have some breathing space, right? Okay. No doubt we conducted the examinations. No doubt we set the results over there. No doubt our students have graduated. Yes, but all that could have come at a cost of teachers working overload over there, right? Not teachers pressurized, but then working overload, because simultaneously we had various activities coming over there. Biju sir, I would like to say that when I started my teaching career, 80% of my work went for teaching alone and 20% went for the other activities. But today it's the other way around. 80% is going for other activities and 20% is only going for my teaching, right? Okay, so somewhere we need to balance it. Right, somewhere we need to balance it. I think one of the sociology faculty has also written on Facebook about what are the works he has done completely during the pandemic time, how he has gone about. There are close to 56 items which he has meant, and that was mind blowing when I came to look at that also. Right? Oh my goodness, we have done so much of work over here during the holidays, sitting at home. The office has substituted my home over here, and then okay, everybody knows the color of my bedroom wall. Everybody knows the color of my what they call hall over here. Everybody knows the dimension of my house, because the office is substituted at home over there. And maybe we have to go on a paced manner. We need not hurry up in this manner, but then we need to go in a paced manner, which I'm talking about. The learning curve is very clear that yes, we can have online examinations, we can have online assignments, LMS model over there. Everybody is now well versed. Everybody has become a tech savvy in conducting meetings over there, and everybody has improved their skills on the technology front. That's the learning curve over there. But come back to the offline mode, we would once again like to be in that same thing, because yesterday I happened to go and meet Father Pro Vice Chancellor, and Pro Vice Chancellor told me, you can have given me a call. We could have spoken on the phone. I said, yes, Father. But then I felt it is more productive to come and meet in person and talk to you. Nobody can, what you call, bridge that personal gap over there. That will remain over there no matter what it is.
Thank you, Ruben. Any more questions?
Sorry, Paul sir, I'm not able to see the chat box for the questions.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing no questions there. All are only pricing words for you, not questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Ruben sir, for your impressive talk. Thank you, Ruben, for excellent presentation, beautifully expressed. So all praises for you. So
that's nice.
I also thank you for this wonderful presentation. And I totally agree with your last point that, I come to the campus many days when I'm not coming to the campus, and when I don't meet the students, something is missing in spite of, taking classes online. So I totally agree with you. Okay. So if there are no other questions, I'm requesting.
Can I interrupt,
Yeah.
Paul, sir? I need to thank a personality, Professor Matthew Varghese from Professional Studies Department. He did the presentation 2 months back. Am I right? Is Professor Matthew Varghese over there? And ever since I've been interacting with Professor Matthew Varghese, and I was impressed at the presentation which he gave. And I took that as a model, and that is how I have made my presentation without a PPT. In fact, my wife was telling me, why don't you show a PPT, because you're very good in showing PPTs and a video on leadership and everything. And I said, no, I'm going to speak from my heart and mind. And so I'm not going to show any PPT. Maybe this extempo presentation was fair enough and good enough for people to appreciate. But I would like to thank Professor Matthew Varghese from the Professional Studies Department, who made a presentation 2 months back. And his presentation also was on the same model. I have taken clues from that, and that is why my presentation is in this particular model. Thank you, Professor Matthew Varghese.
Okay. So thank you. I'm requesting Father Abraham to say a few words. Father.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben, for the wonderful and nice presentation. Everybody appreciated. It is coming from your life experience, and your parents are the motivators. They gave the big lessons. And I think when we have encountered problems, how to solve it, the first person will be looking at a father, mother, how they solve the problems. So that will impress every one of us, because they are the biggest and nicest personalities in our life. Whatever be their occupation, father is a farmer or a teacher or whatever be, they have that personality is something different. Parents' personality, that is a particular personality that will impress. They may be literate, they may be post-standard education, but they have life lessons and convictions to inspire the children. So thank you so much, bringing your parents and giving us nostalgic experiences. Okay, when we speak about your parents, naturally we shall think about our parents. Yes, they are amazing people. And also your interaction with your colleagues and also your bosses. Joseph is a nice person. I know he's my colleague and he's my best friend. How his caring attitude, how he's very humble but very influential and very, I think, down to the earth. At the same time, Christianity College is existing only because of him, or it's all it's coming up. And also your bosses and your trustworthiness, everything we very much appreciate. And after the pandemic, what we are going to do, the question is haunting me. And you told very clearly, okay, Vijay told teachers are not wanted, we should be mentors only. No, the students want to come, and even our LKG students, if they're not going to the class, they won't learn how to speak clearly. So the conversation skills, language skills, they're losing. That's a great loss. The same way, Christ University, the students are coming here by December. Even from the remotest village, any student is coming, he'll be well versed in English. That they're missing for 2 years. It's a big loss. And also, what I think is we should not go backward. We should always go forward. The last deals meeting, I was telling that we have to find ways and means to use our experience during this pandemic in our teaching methodology. What I was telling was, in our classes, there are brilliant students, average students, poor students, and the brilliant students will understand in the very beginning, and they will look at the watch when it will be over. So don't allow them to be bored. At the same time, give them tasks. Let them listen something and come. A recorded speech or recorded a class. Give the class from 6 to 7 or 7 to 8. Let them come to 11 o'clock in the class and have a discussion. During the discussion, please measure them, okay? And you show your concern, love, giving the good, lavishly the grade. The grade should be given not for the midterm examination, final examination. That should be continuous. Their participation, their understanding, and their reflections. So whatever we want, they should go. It should go into their mind, and they should analyze. They should play with that. And after that, let them express. That kind of teaching methodology, I think you have to bring forward, and that will give because everybody should participate. Within one day, we cannot measure, okay? Within 1 month, we can measure all the students in the class. That should be your assessment. Like that, that means you'll be more friendly with the students. At the same time, you'll be knowing each person. Even though 80 students are there, every day 10 students can be assessed. Okay, you can ask questions. What do you understand? What do you learn from that? Have you read? Without reading or without listening, the conversation, they cannot answer anything. So such kind of work we have to give. So teaching method should be improved. That is my feeling. I told Tony Sam George also, give some develop some methods and give some good training for all the teachers, including me, how to go forward after the pandemic, because we should not be the old people before the pandemic. Don't wait for the old situation. Let us all come together and let us start the 9 to 4 classes, well to well classes, and so on. So there should be innovation, teaching methodology, and there should be new methods to attract the students and bring the students, and we should make them think, and let us give us more insights and reflections. So your wonderful presentation. So you are telling that you have to build followers. Let us build other people. Let us trust our subordinates, and also we should not judge others. That's the biggest mistake you're doing. Okay, we have all prejudices, prejudged. He is like that. He is like that. Please get out from that. The moment you are doing the judgment, you are lost. So we should be positive people, see the goodness in others. Very good lessons you gave. Trust others, never judge others, and the colleagues. And also build, that also the build your success of your. That's a good point, okay, that we used to say, but you are telling. Because I knew we find a leader, okay. I don't think that we are not watching you or observing you, okay. We are very closely observing you. So thank you so much, Ruben. All the best.
Thank you, Father.
Open the forum to others, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. I'm requesting Dr. Anil Pinto to give the final message and wind up the session. Over to Dr. Anil.
Yeah, thank you, Leadership Chair, for starting the talk after a break, and appreciate all the efforts of the speaker, the moderator, the organizers, and wish you the new season of Leadership Chair talks all the very best. Thank you.